8. Again, welcome to the Planning Commission meeting for August 8th, 2024. Could everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Oops. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Bentley, would you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Michael Hardy,
Here.
Mr. Tuckfield,
Here.
Mr. Marley,
Here.
Ms. Smith,
Here.
Mr. Spatafora,
Here.
Mr. Oliver,
Here.
and Mr. Bentley is present.
Okay. Everyone's here? All right, next item is approval of the previous meeting minutes. Any comments, any discussion?
Mis-
If there's
Mr.
none, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of the last Planning Commission meeting.
Motion by Mr. Spatafora to approve last meeting minutes,
And I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Meyerly. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. All right, next is the approval of tonight's agenda. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, if there's no discussion, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion by Mrs. Smith to approve tonight's agenda, seconded by Mr. Tuckfield. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. All right. Old business, Mr. Box.
None this evening.
All right. New business. And we'll start with extension of time, site plan, residential component, Fremont Crossing, Fremont PUD, located on the southeast, corner of 21 Mile Road in Card. Section 35. Mario Izzi, petitioner, permanent parcel number 0835100004. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. As you mentioned, this is the residential component of the Fremont PUD, as you see on the screen behind you. They are seeking a 2-year extension at this time, so that's what they have requested. Staff did review this. There's really no zoning issues anticipated. I know they're diligently moving forward. In fact, they've actually covered the ditch along 21 Mile at this point, so staff is recommending approval for this.
Okay. Mr. Izzi, come on up to the table there. State your name and address for us.
Good evening, Mario Izzi with MJC Companies, 46600 Romeo Plank Road, Macomb Township.
Okay. Did you have anything you'd like to add?
No, sir, I'm here for questions.
Okay. Commissioners? Comments? Questions?
Well,
Okay.
1 year, 2 years extension.
Is that what?
2 years is what they have requested, yes.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay.
How, where are we at right now with the project?
As far as an update with the project goes, we just received our second engineering review comments back from the township engineering consultant. It's been within the last 30 days. We're working on those revisions for engineering. We should get those revised and resubmitted, I would say, within the next 30 days. One of the big hang-up, every piece of property is unique. This particular project is unique because we have a split drainage district on this site, so we've been working with the Macomb County Drain Office to get it integrated into one drainage district. And I apologize, I don't know which side, if it's the east side or the west side, it seems to change, but the engineers are working that out. The progress that we have made, the ditch enclosure that we performed through Macomb County Road Commission, essentially, when the project is done, you're going to see a lane widening on the south side of 21 Mile Road. We're going to have to realign the striping and the geometry to extend the left-hand turn lane from 21 Mile Road to go onto Card Road. That was part of our traffic study because of the approaches that we were proposing because of the commercial component of this development. And then we have the residential approaches as well. So there's a lot of work that's involved with the road commission part of this. We've at least got the ditch enclosure done. I do have a little bit of restoration work to do in front of the subdivision to the east of us. I'd like to let that settle out a little bit with all the weather we had. I don't want to prematurely pave that little bit of approach where we made the storm sewer tap there, but that will get done under the authority of the road commission this year. Residential duplex units, we need them as soon as possible. We need inventory. So we're committed to this project. We're trying to go forward. Unfortunately, and as this planning commission knows, these projects become more and more complicated every year with all the requirements, permitting. It just takes us longer. If we could do them quicker, we would. Unfortunately, this is the world we live in. So
Okay.
hopefully that.
Yeah, I seen a ditch all enclosed. It looks nice.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Spatafora?
Good evening, Mr. Izzy. Other than the outstanding permit you're waiting for from the Macomb County Public Works Office, is there any other county permits you need?
So we will need the paving permit from Macomb County Road Commission. The ditch enclosure we decided to go with that because that was kind of the low-hanging fruit, so to speak. We could get that permit. We committed the money, we invested it, we did the enclosure, that's done. Now on top of that, we'll do the paving and the lane widening. I would venture to say that I think the owners feel comfortable enough. If that road commission permit is available before, say, all the on-site permits are available, we would probably just go ahead with the road right-of-way improvements independently of the on-site work as well. So we have the road commission permit, we have the Macomb County Drain Office approval permit, and then obviously all the on-site permits, which those will start to funnel in now that the engineering is, I think, in the final stages of revision. So the on-site water main permit, sanitary sewer permit, drain tap permits, some of that ancillary stuff, as you know, Mr. Spatafora.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Tuckfield?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just briefly, Mr. Izzy, obviously we're going for 2 years, which is our max. Do you feel comfortable you'll be done within that time? Or comfortable you won't need another extension, or you think you will need another one?
What I know today, if it ever stops raining, I think we should be well under development before the 2 years is up, and we're not worried about economy issues right now. We're just, as these projects get approved, we knock them off the list, we get them done. Like I said, we need inventory, unless short of something very drastic happening in global politics or whatever. I feel very comfortable we're going to move forward with this project, and we should not be asking you for another extension. And if you choose to extend this tonight, thank you in anticipation of that.
Okay. All right. Mr. Bentley?
The current drawings that we have, Mr. Box, or at least I can't tell, they don't seem to reflect the enclosed ditch, nor the widening of 21 Mile Road. Is that correct? Are those drawings to be modified before you can get your permits or finalize your permits?
To me,
Yes, I guess.
so with most site plans, if there's an engineering issue that comes up or has to be changed because of specific engineering requirements, ordinances, codes, if it's so drastic that it affects the site plan, I believe if it's within the property, we would have to resubmit a revised site plan. But because this work is in the road right away, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Box, but because it's in the Macomb County Road Commission right away, and we're not changing the access points, we're just changing the scope of work in the Macomb County Road Commission right away. I don't know that you would ask for that. We would be happy to share that with you, but I don't know that it's a requirement for the site plan, but I'll defer to Mr. Box on that.
Yeah, we would not request them to submit new plans. As he mentioned, the site hasn't changed, the access hasn't changed. As they go through engineering may have them show that on their drawings, but we wouldn't ask for that on a site plan.
Okay, so the access won't change even though the drain is different, it's enclosed now.
Right,
And
they're
it's
still in the same location. Yeah.
same location, okay. So, and the road is not going to be wider than what's shown on the drawings. So your curbs and everything won't go south pretty much.
Right. If I may, sir. Because of the deceleration and the outbound acceleration requirements through the road commission, what they require, you're gonna see the final engineering. It will have essentially, like I said, it's gonna be a lane widening on the
Right.
south side to accommodate the deceleration lane and then the outbound taper as well. But the access points, what are on the site plan today, what you're looking at, that is not changing that geometry east or west.
Correct. It'll only change north-south.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Mr. Box, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion on this item?
Mr. Chairman, if I can just verify, Josh, I should know this, but extension of time on a site plan for PUD, we grant this, we don't recommend, is that correct?
You are granting, you are the decision-making body,
Just
yes.
want to verify. Mr. Chairman, with that being said, I would make a motion to grant the 2-year extension of time for the site plan for permanent parcel 083510004. That would be based on the fact that it is not modified relative to our ordinance, and that there seems to be good reason based on permits and other such things to postpone the time this would expire.
Okay, motion by Mr. Box. Motion by Mr. Tuckfield to approve. Support by Mr. Bentley. Okay. Mr. Bentley, call the roll.
Well, Mr. Tuckfield,
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes. Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Marley,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
and Mr. Spatafora.
Yes.
Okay. Motion passes.
Mr.
Might as
Hardy?
well just stay there.
Just a point of if I may, quick question, just point of clarification. The date that we're extending for the 2 years, is it from today or is it from the previous expiration date?
It's from the previous expiration date.
Which is, forgive my ignorance.
December 22.
I don't have it right in front of me, but
I saw
bear
it, I
with
just
me.
saw it.
The, if,
Whatever it says on the drawing on the screen, if you can see it up there, it's hard to.
I don't have my glasses, I'm sorry, I can't.
yeah, Mr. Chairman? The
September
petitioner-
20th.
September 20th. The petitioner did request an extension to September 20th, 2026.
Okay, thank
Without
you for,
objection, Mr. Chairman, I would add that to my motion. I don't know if we need to re-vote on it.
Okay. Do we need to revote, Mr. Eloy?
I don't think
No.
so.
Okay. So we amended it just slightly.
thank you.
Okay. All right, next item. Extension of time, site plan, commercial component, Fremont Place, Fremont PUD, located on the southeast corner of 21 Mile Road and Card Road, Section 35, Mario Izzi, petitioner, permanent parcel number 08351000004. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. This is the same location, same site. This is the commercial component, as you mentioned. And again, the applicant is seeking a 2-year extension of time. Staff has reviewed this. We don't see any zoning issues. Nothing has changed on the plan. They're simply extending how long it's been approved. So we are recommending approval at this time.
Okay. Mr. Izzy, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No,
Your
sir.
name and address is already on record,
Yes, sir.
so just to answer questions.
Any questions?
Commissioners? Any questions?
No.
Anyone? No? All right. Well, then do we have a motion for this item?
What was the date on this one?
Same date,
September 20?
20th, 2026.
Okay, September 20th. All right, Mr. Chairman, with that being said, I'd make a motion to grant the extension of time for 2 years to September 20th, 2026 for permanent parcel 083510004. I believe both parcels in both of my motions tonight were the same. So just a note that it would be for the first motion would have been for the outer parcel. This is for the inner portion of the PUD. The granting of the site plan extension of time would be based upon the same facts as before, that it does not change relative to the ordinance and that permitting issues seem to require an extension of time.
Okay, motion to approve the extension of time for the site plan of Fremont Place, 08351000004 by Mr. Tuckfield. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Spatafora. Mr. Bentley, please call the roll.
Well, Mr. Tuckfield,
Yes.
Mr. Spatafora,
Yes.
Mr. Marley,
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes. Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
and Ms. Smith.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
All right. Next item, site plan and special land use, Consumer Energy Regulator Station, located on the east side of Romeo Plank Road, 1,780 feet south of 21 Mile Road, Section 33. Consumer Energy, Joseph Lawson III, petitioner, permanent parcel number 08331511006. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. As you mentioned, this is on the east side of Romeo Plank, just south of 21 Mile, as you see on the screen there. It's a relatively small site. It's actually a parcel that would be considered a non-conforming piece. This electrical substation that already exists, or excuse me, the consumer's substation already exists. They're just making some upgrades for health and safety for the site. I'm sure they'll be happy to talk about that when they come up to the podium. Staff has looked at this site plan. They did come in and get a couple variances. I will note that I'll talk about later. So there's two items to look at: the special land use as well as the site plan. Even though the site already exists, we found no record that it ever went through the special land use process. So since they're here, we're kind of cleaning that up. So it is a special land use that would be required. The site is already developed as a public utility, so it would continue to be harmonious, which is one of the 8 criteria with the neighborhood. Proposed improvements include an addition of a building and fencing and a little paving. There's not really anything that would anticipate a change in traffic flow, nor would it be any more hazardous than it is already. No nuisances are anticipated resulting from noise, fumes. The Planning Commission will have some determination to whether or not they would allow the large amount of gravel on the site. And an 8-foot high fence was considered and denied by the zoning board. Some of the drawings, or I think all of the drawings that are in the packet, still show the 8-foot fence. So should this be approved this evening, it would need to be contingent on an update to those drawings to show that fence is 6 foot. The proposed use needs to be such that the height of the building structures will not interfere with or discourage appropriate development. Again, this isn't, it's essentially a shed that they're building around an existing facility. The proposed use shall relate harmoniously with physical and economic aspects. Again, it's not really applicable. The site already exists. They're just making some upgrades to the site. And the proposed use is necessary. You could say it's not applicable, or it is necessary. I mean, it's consumers provide services to users all over Michigan. And it's designed, located, and planned, operate in such a manner that it will not impact the public health, safety, and welfare, which is really the impetus of this update. They're trying to create a safer condition for their facilities. The proposed site shall not be detrimental or injurious. Again, it already exists, so staff didn't really see any way that this would cause it to increase that. So with that said, we are recommending approval of the special land use. Again, the Planning Commission does have some authority to take a look at the ground cover as acceptable, meaning the amount of gravel, as well as we think that an approval should be conditioned on updating the drawings to show the 6-foot fence. Looking at the site plan itself, they do meet all appropriate setbacks. They did get a variance again, so with the variance that they received, they meet all required setbacks. They are showing that their 8-foot sidewalk already exists. The site will continue to be accessed in the same location. They're paving the drive. No parking or loading is required for this use, therefore they're not proposing any. The Planning Commission, as I mentioned before, that may determine whether it's acceptable ground cover. So there's a large amount of gravel, as you saw in the drawings. Essentially everything that's not paved, they're proposing as gravel, which the Planning Commission would have some purview of whether or not they find that acceptable. Screening, they're proposing proposing an 8-foot ornamental fence in the front. Again, that location within the front yard was approved by the ZBA. However, the height was not. So the height of the fence is required to be a maximum of 6 feet tall. So that's the area in green there that I was talking about. They'll need to update the drawing for that location. An 8-foot vinyl fence, which would be in the rear, side and rear, which would be allowed if it had been approved. However, the 8-foot was not approved, so the height of that area would also need to be updated. But this is a vinyl fence. I'm going to go back a slide. This area in green is an ornamental fence, and in the rear is a vinyl fence. Both need to be revised to show 6 feet. Elevations were shown in your packet. The building will be constructed of metal. At this time, site plan approval is recommended, again, conditioned upon the update of the drawing with the height of the fence and the fact that the planning commission is accepting of the ground cover. Staff does not have concerns with the ground cover with the gravel, but again, that's in your purview.
Okay. Is a petitioner in the audience? Come on up, gentlemen. Please state your names and addresses for us.
Okay. Good evening. Doug Scott from Rowe Professional Services, 540 South Saginaw, Flint, Michigan.
Anthony Stepke, Consumers Energy, One Energy Plaza, Jackson, Michigan.
Okay. Gentlemen, what would you like to add tonight?
I think Josh covered it very, very well. I mean, we can answer any questions. Regarding the 6-foot fence, we obviously understand it will need to be 6 foot, and we just haven't updated the drawings because we're still working through some of the engineering issues as well at this time. So,
Okay. Commissioners, comments, questions? Mr. Bentley?
Well, first of all, because the requirement to change from 8 foot to 6 foot, does that add any concern or danger to the public if it does change down to 6 foot? Was there a reason for it being 8 foot?
Yeah, so our Consumers Energy security standard is 8 foot for the ornamental and vinyl type of fences. We also install like a chain link with barbed wire at the top. That's a 7-foot fence. Our engineering department is okay with it being 6. They're requesting a variance at this time for the change in height. Obviously, it's a deterrent, just general public, keeping them away from the. This is actually it's a gas regulator station, not a substation. Natural gas. But no, I'm not concerned with the 6 foot. Just one other thing we have to do on our end to change that.
Does that 6 foot include, like you say, barbed wire at the top?
No, the ornamental fence and the vinyl have no barbed wire.
Okay. And the site has no fence currently. So obviously when that was put in, you didn't follow a standard, I guess, to put an 8-foot fence. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. I'm not sure the exact age of the station, but since September 11th, the TSA has pushed guidelines onto us basically to secure our facilities and do things to basically deter any tampering with or damage to transmission of hazardous materials and stuff like that. So our company implemented a security standard recently within the last several years to essentially start increasing the security of these stations.
Okay. Is there a reason why the fence is, I think it's 2'6" or so?
On the south side?
On the south and the west, or east?
Yes, I can answer that. So if you could look at the far east side, there is a egress gate.
Yeah.
That's just essentially an emergency exit for the workers there on site. They could exit out the back. And we did choose to leave it that way after the setback of the fence in case there's development, sometime in the future, based on our discussions with the planners. And we have spoken to the landowner who's here tonight. He mentioned that we could at this time, exit out in an emergency situation to the east. it is a little wet out there right now, but it's essentially for egress in emergency cases.
Okay.
In the case that, for whatever reason, it was developed with a different property butting up against us.
So you're wanting to exit and stay on your property,
Correct.
go south, and then out towards the road going west,
Yes, sir.
without going on somebody else's property.
Right.
I see. We were given a letter it was part of our package as well, that a new layout or an agreement was being formed by you and the owner, or between you and the owner. And I guess I anticipated that those new requirements would be addressed this evening, or at least they would be brought forward. There was, I guess,
Are you referring?
Bruce R. Nichols.
Yeah, you're referring to the letter that the neighbor, who I believe is in the audience this evening, provided.
As the reason for the postponement, or one of the reasons, I guess.
It was a letter in opposition, for the most part, to the fence being put up.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
I mean, I don't want to speak for him. If he wants to get up and answer questions, again, I think he's here in the audience, so.
It just indicated that consumers and I can work out a solution satisfactory to both parties, and I just wondered what that solution was.
Yeah, and we spoke with him several times, and we are working through that, and a lot of it is just, like I say, just basically working through, and it's actually turned into a little bit, engineering is requiring us to change the drainage a little bit on there, so we're working through to get an agreement with him to be able to, we share the south property line, our south property line, his north property line have a shared drainage swale there, and so we're working through that issue to basically be able to do some work in there to improve the drainage, and that's really the main thing that we're working through, but also just, trying to address any concerns that he has as well,
So the change in the drainage, would that be outside your property line or inside your property line?
It runs right along the property line. Like I said, there's an existing swale that runs along
Yes?
two property lines. We'll basically be improving that is what we'll be doing. And that's basically what your engineering consultant is asking us to work through to try and be able to improve that drainage a little bit, so.
Okay, and so the surface of that drainage will be grass then?
Yes.
Or half grass and then half gravel?
It'll mainly be grass, the swale itself. I mean, obviously, from our fence will come out a little bit with the stone down to it, but most of that swale will be grass.
Okay. And then not to belabor this, I'm sorry, guys. But the aggregate, completely, your site is total aggregate except for the pavement. Right now, it seems, I don't know if it's the same footprint, but seems to be mostly gravel, which was, I think, one of the issues that were indicated in this letter from Mr. Nichols. But is there a reason for all gravel? Wouldn't to maintain grass be a little easier?
Well, basically, there is definitely a reason for that, and obviously, with this being a natural gas facility on that, we don't want to have any type of combustible material there, so grass could essentially be a combustible fuel at that point, and so basically, our standard is to go ahead and basically cover things in limestone. It's a larger aggregate so that it doesn't have the fines, so what we'll do is we'll start out with a layer of geofabric, basically a separator, and then place that stone on top of it. The stone is large enough gradation that actually it's about 35% voids in there, so that 6 inches of stone will actually hold about 2 inches of rain as it comes down through there. So, and then it allows that to perk into the ground. So we're doing that, obviously, so that we don't want the grass in there from a combustibility standpoint. And also, it's very low maintenance at that point too, so.
All right. The only thing I can think of is weeds growing in the
And
aggregate.
That fabric will prevent that as well. I mean, it's a weed barrier that we placed down there on the bottom of that as well.
Right. Now, the only building or above-ground facility is the enclosed building, the new building you're putting up?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that are essentially above the grade. You do have the building itself, which is the primary thing you're probably gonna see itself, but there is a rack that has the meter, and it has communications back to Jackson for pressures and temperatures and things like that. And then there is some of the piping is above grade too. And in the back of the station, which is enclosed, there's a small heater. That's to heat up the gas in the winter to prevent any sort of frost and stuff on the pipes.
So none of that is enclosed in the building?
Those items are not.
Okay.
And they're shown on the site plan, the proposed RTU is the cabinet that Mr. Stepke's talking about. And that's gonna look very similar to like a pump station control panel or something like that. It'd be stainless steel cabinet on that, and then the heater on the east end there, that will basically be above grade as well. It kind of looks like a large barbecue grill type, or I guess a large smoker type thing is what it looks like, with a round barrel.
Okay. My understanding from the write-up was that everything was going to be pretty much underground, and then this building is added. And I wasn't sure whether or not the other two items, the smaller ones that you've noted, were above ground or not.
Yeah.
It wasn't clear to me, and it didn't show in any elevations. I appreciate you clarifying that.
The piping is primarily underground. Basically a valve operator or something like that with a hand wheel operator would be what's sticking up and stuff there.
Similar to what's out there now. There's some stuff is above grade. I think we have some enclosures currently, and like Mr. Scott said, there's some valves that are above grade. That's essentially to help with ergonomics for the workers, keeping them above grade versus having them buried, and the potential to have groundwater and things corrode them. So.
I think that's all one clarification more. I'm sorry, the building. Does that have a floor in it?
No, it doesn't.
So it's gravel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And there's no continuous foundation? They're all individual foundations? There's no,
These are piles, right?
there's no rat wall or anything?
No. It's basically a sonotube foundations is what it is, yeah.
Yeah, there's not going to be anything stored in there.
There's no heat.
There's no heat, no water.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Spatafora.
Yes, good evening, gentlemen. The crux of Mr. Nichols' letter that was contained in our packet for the previous meeting that was postponed due to notice requirements, which may have been a good thing for all concerned, had to do with the adjacent farmhouse to the south that I believe his relatives, probably his parents, owned, that was sold to Consumers Energy, I want to say about 44 years ago, with an attachment in there. There's some items in there that apparently Mr. Nichols and family worked with Consumers Energy, throughout the years, but the crux of this particular letter had to do with maybe what was contained 44 years ago, looked like a promise by Consumers Energy as far as having a natural landscape berm around the property versus the fencing, where you had petitioned and were denied a variance to go from 8 feet to 6 feet. Have you had discussions with Mr. Nichols, and he may come up and clarify it more, as far as that portion of, the issue that I think he's looking for with that historic farmhouse built in the 1880s, just right next to it, as far as landscaping around or fencing? Has that discussion been had, or has that not been resolved?
I've spoken to him a few times, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy to give any, clarify any of his concerns with you. We are working through them. He had mentioned to me the history of what we've done with him and his family. As far as, I think there was certain landscaping put in, if memory's serving correct, but I think our folks ended up either spraying them or something
Sure,
happened.
over
and
time.
They ended up dying. I think I've sent him the plans as well for him to view, and I think he has been satisfied with that. And as we mentioned earlier, we're still continuing to work with him to meet the engineering requirements as far as runoff.
Okay. I will also note for security, I drove up there myself today. There was absolutely no chain or a
Right.
gate where I was able to drive through, took a picture, and backed out and drove out. So, okay, maybe Mr. Nichols can address more of that, because that seemed to be an important crux of his letter concern that was included within our planning commission packet. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Duckfield.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I actually had a question for Mr. Loya. I just wanted to clarify. Obviously, I'm assuming you've read, Ben, in the packet. There's a letter from the neighbor. There's a note from a previous time from consumers to the neighbor. Outside of the due care we would typically take in trying to make sure that we are exercising our authority accurately to maintain visibility and visual cues within.
Development meets the ordinances and standards.
Okay. And as we've talked about before, our responsibility with the site plan tends to be more towards, does it abide by the restrictions, not is it our preference? Is that generally accurate?
Right, I mean, is it in accordance with our ordinances
Yeah.
and the requirements?
All right. And then just to update to the board, we've mentioned the fence a couple times. I did want to clarify the request had been, currently the ordinance is 6 foot. They had requested to make it 8 foot. That was denied. I can't speak for the entire board's belief on that. I believe there was wording in the motion, but I know for my part, in deliberation, we asked, was it a requirement? Was it a law? Was there studies as to, was there more hazard if it was 6 feet versus 8 feet? And obviously, it seemed at the time that it was a preference, it was a standard, but we weren't presented with anything that the board felt merited a practical difficulty that would require it. I know that the safety issue was definitely something we asked. It was presented as a possible safety thing, but the board decided it did not meet the standard. So I just wanted to update the board as a whole and confirm that the request had been to go from 6 feet to 8 feet, not 8 feet to 6 feet. So that was all I had. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just a quick question. Going back to that heater, that'll be the only heaters there, first one installed, when this is complete? You're proposing, where do I see it? Proposed heater,
Yeah.
Yes,
It will be the only heater.
the only one there?
Correct.
only
yes.
one.
Yep.
Does that emit any kind of fumes?
It'd be similar to a furnace for your home.
Okay. Mr. Bentley, me live close to one, your competitor, and every now and then we'll smell a lot of like raw gas. Maybe it's old, maybe we don't know, but just elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, if they're one of the things Consumers Energy is doing separate from this, there is a whole program to capture fugitive emissions, and that's probably what you're smelling. Is there's possibly a flanged connection somewhere that's maybe not fully tightened. Maybe the gasket is damaged, and there might be a leak at the particular location you're talking about. Consumers does do regular kind of surveys of the properties that we have to lower any sort of emissions that we may have at existing stations. So the effort we're going through here would obviously be to have no emissions at all that are going out.
Okay. I'm assuming this is the latest and greatest out, and
Yes.
hopefully that'll, I'm looking at all the houses around there, and it'd be a problem. It's not, when we smell it, it's generally when it's really, really cold and they're cooking or warming the fuel. But it'd bring a lot of attention to that site. And then the other question I got, what kind of pressures are you running your pressures into that building?
So typically for distribution regulator stations, we have the maximum allowable pressure is about 400 psi, and it reduces it down to 55.
Okay.
And that 55 is what is basically then goes almost all the way up to a home, and then you have your meter at your house that regulates it down to under a pound.
Okay.
Generally speaking, that we see anywhere from 300 to probably 375 normally. We don't, it's not always 400. Like 400 would be like the max we would be able to do.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Anyone? All right, at this time, I'd like to open this item to the public with a motion. Motion by Mr. Bentley.
I'll support.
Supported by Mr. Meyerly. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion passes, and public portion is open at 7:19. Come on up, sir. State your
my name is
name
Bruce
and address,
Nichols.
please.
And I am the neighbor next door. It's the family farm, and I was involved in the transfer to consumers of this gas unit. We've met and we talked. Consumers is
Okay,
always.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I need your name and address.
Oh, I thought I gave it to you. Bruce Nichols.
Okay.
46300 Romeo Plank Road.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
and we're right next door. And this is, I wrote the letter that you've got in your packet. We've talked about it, and as consumers has always done, they're pretty easy to work with. And we're going to change the grade, the side of the property, the southern side, which will make it us able to plant shrubbery or something in there, some greenery on our side, and not interfere with them. It'll look better, and they're going to tone down the color from kind of the white crematorium fence to a tan fence. And at that point, I can live with it. So there's no objection here based on that. I just want to clear that up for you, so it had been mentioned. Thank you.
That helps a lot. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else that'd like to come up and speak on this item? Okay, then at 7:20, I need a motion to close.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Oliver,
I'll support.
supported by Mr. Meyerly. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. All right. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this item? Or
And
Mr. Box, did you
Just to
have
be
anything
clear,
else you'd
I
like to
think
add?
there should be two votes, one for the site plan and one for the special land use.
Okay. So we'll start with the site plan first. Anyone?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other discussion or motions, I'll make a motion to approve the site plan for permit parcel 08331511006 as presented, with the exception that the wall around the perimeter of the property would be changed from 8 foot to 6 foot.
Okay, I'll second that. Mr. Bentley, please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Tuckfield,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Marley,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, and Mr. Spatafora.
Point of clarification on the motion, would that be a wall or the fence as proposed to 6 feet? You said wall and,
Clarification would be a fence.
Okay.
okay. With that clarification, I also support that motion.
Okay, with the clarification. All right, then I think we are unanimous. All right, the next item would be the special land use for consumer energy.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further discussion, I'd make a motion to approve the special land use for permanent parcel 08331511006. This would be based upon it passing our special land use conditions as observed tonight and as documented by the planning department this evening.
Okay. All right. Anybody want a second?
I'll support.
Supported by Mrs. Smith. Mr. Bentley?
Mr. Tuckfield,
Yes.
Ms. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. Spatafora,
Yes.
Mr. Marley,
Yes.
Mr. Oliver,
Yes.
Mr. Hardy,
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, next item is the site condominium subdivision plan, Garfield and Hall Development, located on the northwest corner of Hall Road and Garfield, Section 32, Clinton Mansour, petitioner, permanent parcel number 0832-300-018. Mr. Box.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. You may recall this came before you a few months ago as a conditional rezoning, which was approved. So that being said, they're here with their site condo subdivision plan. As you see, it will be a 3-unit condominium. What they're getting approved this evening, should you approve it, is just the common area, common elements, the shared roadway, shared drive, some sidewalks. I'll walk through those. But just for point of clarification, each unit would then come back later with their own site plans. So they have showed, as I mentioned, there's 3 points of access, one on Hall, one on Garfield, and one that's stubbed for a future access to the property to the west. The 8-foot walkway exists along Hall, and 8-foot walkway is provided as required along Garfield Road, and a 5-foot wide walk is proposed along the limits of Unit 3. The dimensions do match what was in the conditional rezoning and what was approved in that concept plan. No common landscaping is proposed. Instead, each unit will be providing their own landscaping when those are developed. Same with signage. No signage is proposed here. Those will be on the site plans for each individual unit. With that being said, the site condo subdivision plan approval is recommended by staff.
Okay. Is the petitioner here? Good evening, sir. State your name and address for the record for us, please.
Good evening. Eric Williams with Stonefield Engineering Design. Address is 555 South Old Woodward, Birmingham, Michigan. I think Josh summed it up.
What was the last name again?
Williams.
Williams?
Yes.
Thank
yes,
you.
sir. Yep. I do also have Clint Mansour and Steve Calabat in the back here. They are the developers of the project. But I believe Josh summed up what we are seeking tonight, simply the common elements of this development. So we do have direct access to Hall Road via, I'm going to call it a bridge, but a culvert crossing more or less, access to Garfield to the east. I would just point out there are going to be some roadway improvements there based off conversations with the engineering department along with the County Road Commission. So we have been in continuous communication with those folks. You'll see a right-hand turn lane as you go southbound on Garfield. And then also on the east side of the road, there will be, I'm going to call it a left turn bypass, but essentially if somebody's taking a left turn into the property, there will be another lane east of that to allow vehicles to continue north unrestricted. Beyond that, as Josh mentioned, we will be returning for additional applications for the subsequent units. I know one of them is under review now, and I believe the other couple are in short order here. Other than that, happy to answer any questions and appreciate everybody's time.
Okay. Commissioners. Mr. Bentley.
I didn't even say anything. So I do have some questions regarding the site. Could you clarify what is happening off of Hall Road there at the entrance? You mentioned a culvert, you mentioned a bridge.
Yes.
It wasn't detailed, it wasn't noted. I'm not sure what's going on. And then what would happen as you mentioned, there would be a deacceleration, maybe an acceleration lane as it approaches or gets onto Hall Road is what I'm assuming. So maybe that shifts. I'm not sure.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to describe it in a little more detail. So if anybody's driven by the site, there is the Glody Drain, which is a county drain that runs essentially east-west across the entirety of the frontage before it crosses underneath Garfield. I think it's about a 100-foot wide easement there that encompasses that area. And the grade change, I want to say it sits about 12 feet below the Hall Road elevation or Hall Road height of the actual roadway. So we've got some grade change to work with. Obviously, a large amount of water is flowing through the area. So we've already started the process, and I know this has come up in a few extensions in the time that we've been here, but we've already submitted to FEMA. We have filed our application with Eagle. We've made formal applications to the engineering department to begin the review of the floodplain and drain crossing. So again, it's the system that we're looking to use at this point is it's called a Contec Conspan system. It's essentially a prefabricated concrete, I mean, again, for lack of a better term, bridge, but it'll sit on shallow foundations and basically just allow vehicles to cross the drain unimpeded.
Okay.
As far as acceleration and deceleration lanes on Hall Road, there is, I think it's a 12 to 14 foot striped shoulder at this point, if you've driven by. So all that MDOT's asked us to do is essentially restripe that area to allow for a right-hand turn lane into the site and then an acceleration turn if you're trying to head westbound on Hall Road again. So no real roadway improvements per se, just restriping to make it a little bit clearer for traffic as they travel in and out of Hall Road. The right turn lane that I was mentioning is actually on Garfield. So if you look at this particular image, it's going to be kind of the right-hand side of the drawing halfway up the site. That's where you'll see actual roadway improvements.
Okay. And there's seems to be a retaining wall along Hall Road. Is
That's
that
correct.
You're breaking through that then as
Yeah.
well?
Yep. And it's not a true retaining wall. It's like a slurry rock wall. So it's kind of a mixture of concrete and rocks. MDOT has already reviewed that and hasn't indicated any major concerns. They have provided their original plans when that I think the drain was shifted and realigned. And so we do have that documentation and we have reviewed it.
So once you bring this forward with the layouts of each unit, that will be clarified and further delineated then, correct?
It will not be. Based off of staff's desire, they wanted to keep a simple drawing at this point of what you're seeing here. We have been, in conversations with them in terms of what we are trying to accomplish, but the alignment that you see should not change. It'll be maintained as a 26-foot road or driveway with the 8-foot walk. There'll obviously be guardrail, handrail for safety purposes on either side. But again, this will be, if you drive down Hall Road, you probably won't ever see it because it's going to sit down below the roadway. All you'll see is, as you drive by on your right side, you'll see a driveway into the site and probably won't even really be able to tell that there's the culvert crossing there.
Okay. Is there any requirement for a turnaround at the stub? Something to turn or
Sure, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, so at this point in time, we do have the two southern units spoken for in terms of users. So we don't really see a need for a true turnaround at this point. The fire department has reviewed and approved the drawing as shown. So we don't intend to install a turnaround unless that's requested at some future date. But really, with the users that are in place, there would be full circulation. You could enter a parking lot, park, do your business, and then exit back out in whichever direction you choose.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Mr. Spatafora?
Yeah, this is for Josh, I think, more specifically. So each of the proposed 3 units will have to be flushed out more thorough for site plan review and a full engineering review?
Correct. Each individual unit will have their
Because
own.
of the FEMA floodplain.
They'll have their own site plan. I don't know how detailed through FEMA, but some of that will likely be handled with this phase. But yes, each one will come in with their own site plan, their own engineering plan. Yep.
Okay.
I would be happy to maybe just expand on FEMA. We had made an application, is probably about 4 months ago at this point. So we have received their initial review, and that was subsequently resubmitted about 2 weeks ago now. No major red flags, just a lot of computational cleanup, some clarification, a little more detail to what we were really trying to achieve. So there hasn't been any indication that this isn't achievable at this point. And Clint and Steve have obviously continued forward with the project based on the level of confidence provided.
So what you're proposing down the line to put in units 2 and 3, you're saying has not been negatively affected from what you've seen so far from FEMA?
Correct. We've gone through far more engineering at this point than we typically would because of the restrictions of the site. So we are very confident at this point as those applications come forward, they're in a position to do so. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Just have one relatively simple question. Obviously, we're doing site plans and this, the condominium portion separately. What do you anticipate the separation of time between those two to be?
Josh's group sent us a site plan review on Monday for one of the users. I'm hoping we can be on maybe the next agenda. I got to talk to him about that still. But I know the southeast hard corner user is actively seeking to be in front of you. As far as the southwest unit, I'm not sure if they've made an application yet, Josh. I don't know if you can speak to that.
We did receive something from them a while back, but we haven't heard from them recently. So we have an idea of what they're looking for, but we don't actively have anything in front of us.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Okay, anyone else? Okay, then I need a motion to open this item to the public.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Spatafor, supported by Mr. Meyerly. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay. If there's anyone in the audience that would like to come up to the podium, state your name and address. You got 4 minutes to share with us anything on this item. Anybody? Gentlemen? Nobody? Anyone? Okay, well then, I need a motion to close.
Moved.
Motion by Mr. Oliver,
Support.
supported by Mrs. Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion passes. All right. Mr. Box, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Not at this time.
Okay. Then I'd like to make a motion to approve the site plan subdivision, to approve the site condominium subdivision plan, the Garfield Hall development, item number 0832300018.
I'll support.
Okay, I made the motion, supported by Mr. Bentley. Mr. Bentley, would you please call the roll?
I will. Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
Mr. Bentley, yes. Mr. Spatafor?
Yes.
Mr. Marley?
Yes.
Mr. Tuckfield?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
And Mr. Oliver?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. All right, we're now on to public comments on non-agenda items. Is there anyone that would like to come up and speak? No? Anyone? Okay. The commissioner comments. Anybody who have anything they want to share?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Tuckfield?
I just wanted to congratulate Mr. Charlie Oliver for his election win on Tuesday, seeing as he has no competition in November. He will most likely, short of something very, very unusual, be reelected in November. I just want to pass along my congratulations.
Thank you.
Kudos.
All right.
Appreciate all the support from this board and the residents of Macomb Township. It's nice to see that.
It's a good feeling.
Again, thank you. It is a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, really is. Somebody likes me.
Well, we like your updates
Oh,
too.
okay. Yeah. Well,
Rich
you
was,
get one soon.
Rich was worried if he got replaced, he wouldn't be able to ask more questions.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
All right, well, speaking of that, the Macomb Township Board of Trustees liaison update is next. Mr. Charles Oliver, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. Couple quick things. I don't know if this board is aware of it, but the Board of Trustees finalized the, I shouldn't call them dumpsters, but the
A collection container.
collection containers that
to
we're
get that
turning
right.
into dumpsters.
Yeah.
And I just, again, I want to thank Josh and his team for doing that because it was getting out of hand. It really was. And so I'm glad that our planning took action and got that taken care of.
What's the resolution?
That, well, Josh, go ahead and update the board on it. What we want people to do when we bring them in, when they come in.
Yeah, so they are required to apply for the location of them. And there's now an ordinance in place that regulates them where they can be, where they can't be. A maintenance requirement that if they're not being emptied in an expedited manner, that we have the right to rescind their approval and we can impound them. So, yeah, it's going well. We had 48 of them in the township. Many were, for lack of a better term, eyesores. I believe at this point we have approved 3 of them. 47 of the 48 were removed. Only 1 remained in place and got approved fast enough that they never actually had to remove it. I believe we've approved 2 or 3 others, and we have a few other applications in. So it's going to be a much smaller number than what we had before.
Great, thank you.
And these receptacles have to be for a charity, is that right?
They don't have to be for a nonprofit, but they have to identify, that's part of the ordinance, they have to identify whether they are a nonprofit or not.
Okay, good.
Thanks,
right.
Josh. And then the other thing, our state senator, Veronica Kleinfeld, again, come through from Macomb Township, brung $3 million to update Heinrich and 21 Mile Road, where the school complex is, that corner, which is
Huge.
it's a lot of money for this community.
Sure.
She brung 5,000 for Broughton Road, and 5 million for Broughton Road, and 3 million now for Heinrich Road. So that's quite a compliment to Macomb Township, and a compliment to her for working so hard to remember us, you know. And I made the comment to her that at the board meeting that, you know, like this round of elections, we might get a new senator, a new people, and they come into the podium and they announce their name, they announce what they do, but we never see them no more. But Veronica actually delivered for Macomb Township, so pretty good,
Yeah, that's nice.
yeah.
Charlie, are they expecting to do a roundabout there, or do we know what the improvements are?
I don't know yet.
That intersection is near and dear to my heart. I go through it every day,
Yeah,
twice
yeah.
or 3 times a day.
But it's gonna get improved for $3 million. I mean, it's not a lot of money, but it's gonna, you know, there's gonna be matching funds, I'm assuming, from the county and stuff, so it's a big thing. It's a real big thing, so. And that's it.
All right. All right, ZBA, Mr. Tuckfield?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the only thing I'd mention is that our last ZBA meeting, we are continuing to have pool variance requests. We had one of them, I believe, this last time, and we just mentioned again to Mr. Box, and he indicated that the planning department is working on it to look at an update to that to the ordinance. So specifically, the ordinance states that a pool can't be closer than 10 feet. In the time I've been on the ZBA, I have seen, I don't know, probably 50 or more variance requests for that particular portion of the ordinance. It's easily the most requested variance we have in the township, so it'll be good to look at it, make sure that we're confident, and then hold the line where we want to hold the line. So something that'll be good, we should see coming in, I think, relatively shortly as an ordinance update. And from the ZBA's perspective, it's a big change and it'll be an important one.
Awesome. Okay. Planning Department, Mr. Box.
Yes, I have 2 items tonight. We have been notified by a couple of our neighbors about their master plan updates. So Clinton Township will be holding a public hearing on Thursday, August 22nd at the Clinton Township Hall at 6:30 p.m. to consider adopting their proposed 2024 master plan update. The plan is also available for download on their township website. And then Harrison Charter Township, also going through the master plan process. Their master plan is available for download on their township website, and you have 63 days from August 2nd to provide comments, and they will be having a public hearing for their master plan. It is scheduled for Thursday, October 17th at their town hall at 7 p.m. That's it.
Okay, well, thank you. Mr.
Just a
Spatafora?
quick question back to Mr. Box. Will there be a planning commission meeting August 20th?
I believe so. I believe so. Yep.
Okay, that was my question, but that works. All right. Okay, motion to adjourn. Wait a minute, let me look. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mrs. Smith, supported by Mr. Oliver. All those that are in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. We are adjourned. 7:43.
I may.